This is the fourth and final episode of the Tommy Tabahia, aka Ummagawd, interview on the history of FPV. In this episode, we talk about sharing, and specifically, there's this thread that runs through all of FPV where there's something about this that makes us want to share it. And honestly, it's fantastic. And for me, at least, the sharing is at least as much fun as the actual flying. You also get to see what happens when Tommy gets a little bit hot. That's amazing. And finally, we do get to hear about Tommy's OnlyFans page because I know you're waiting for that. If you like what I do here, give me a like, subscribe, and if you really like what I do, go to my Patreon. It's in the link below, and you can get a podcast version of this and the complete unedited interview. I hope that you guys really enjoy this, and we're going to have one final word from our sponsor. I hope that you guys have a great day. Bye. You're staring at one of the tallest buildings in the world. Are you afraid? Ground control frames. Freestyle like you mean it. So let's talk about the social aspect of flying, because you talked about like, oh yeah, well, you can go out with all your buddies and you can put 6 people in the air and it's a lot of fun. How have things changed socially from back in the day? And it sounds like FPV technology was one of the big, being able to put 6 people in the air was a big thing.
Yeah. I would say not a whole lot from a social aspect, because, I first of all, let me put it out there. Like, I haven't gone out to fly for fun. I know I'm so guilty of this, but I haven't gone out to fly for fun in a very long time. But I would imagine that if I could have it my way and I could go hit up like all my old buddies that I used to go fly with, it would be just like the way it was. It was like, we knew, like, for instance, every Saturday evening we were going to the park in Long Beach, El Dorado, and somebody was always going to be there. Somebody always had the barbecue set up, somebody had the drinks, somebody had the radio, Bluetooth speaker. If it was more of the racing guys, for sure, somebody brought race gates. If it was more of the freestyle guys like me, then we were just out there playing with the gates every now and then doing all kinds of other stuff. And it was honestly just a place to hang out. Like, it was what you did to get away from the real world for an evening at a time. You can be Superman, you can do whatever. And it didn't even have to be at the same spots. Like, there was other groups where it was our thing to go find places to fly, or places that, kind of in that gray area, and that was exciting all on its own, because it gives you a little bit of that. Is it legal? Is it kind of not illegal? Kind
like
of
under bridges?
Yeah. Maybe some bridges and some other things were involved. But it's the social aspect. I think, in my personal opinion, I don't think that's changed. Like, if you get into this hobby, most people, I feel like, get into this hobby because it's cool. It's cool. It's cool to fly. It's an amazing experience. You don't really get that anywhere else, short of maybe flying the real thing. But then once you meet up with other people with, the similar interests, it just kind of takes it up a notch. And then it's just like, it's like my dad going out to go play tennis with his buddies. It's half of it is because tennis is fun, but the other half of it is because I like hanging out with friends. I like hanging out with like-minded people.
It's funny you talk about not flying for fun, because you made that comment when you were on with Bob. And a buddy of mine, John Eska, he does a bunch of reviews and things like that. There's a few of us, him, Lexi, a few other folks that are in. We've got this little Discord where we kind of kick around ideas sometimes. And after that episode aired, John came on. He was like, "This will never be my job. I do not ever want to not fly for fun." He was like distraught for you. That it is not that you could ever have to sit there and say, "Well, I haven't flown for fun in a long time." So
it's true, but it's
still fun to fly.
Yeah, let me caveat that, because when I say for fun, I mean go out and fly for absolutely zero reason other than to just go out and burn a couple of packs. Like that I have just not been able to. And there is a lot of reasons behind that. Like one is because I don't like flying by myself anymore these days, because like the last 5 times really that I've tried to do that, I just had some really sketchy randos come up to me and it was very uncomfortable. And I was just like, not going to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. But like you said, like for the things that I am flying for a reason, 99% of the time, it's still fun. It's a whole lot of fun. Like, I'm flying these much, much bigger things, and going down in one of those is a hell of a lot different than going down in a mini quad.
Yeah. And way more expensive.
way more expensive. And unlike going down and flying with your friends, if you go down, it's kind of like a small hit to your ego, no big deal.
Yeah.
If you're doing this on a shoot, you're the guy that crashed a drone, and in that world, it is absolutely a big deal, and your concern about getting called back just immediately just comes to the forefront of everything, and you're just like, But mm-hmm. That all aside, when at the end of the day, like when the thing that you were working on comes out, it's like, I got to be a part of that. Because look, right, with FPV, especially if you're into freestyle. If you're into freestyle FPV, you cannot deny that there's a certain artistic creativity aspect to it that you are wanting to put out into the world, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's you like to cinewhoop, so you just want to show the scenery, or maybe you're on the freestyle side and you want to show tricks and things that you could do, which is basically showing off your skill. And, I talk about putting up videos on YouTube because it was more about sharing things, but obviously as things evolved, it became more of sharing the things that like the creativity aspect of things. And so being able to still get that when I'm doing these like FPV shoots is absolutely like rewarding, absolutely satisfactory, because you're still building the things it's all the same things. It's just on a different scale and in a slightly different purpose. But at the end of the day, you're building the thing, and it's not even you build it and you're done. Like right now, at least I am. I'm working on, all right, what's the next step? Like, what is the next step for an FPV drone in the production world? Because like I quickly found out, like, especially with these bigger productions, there's certain standards and I don't want to call it requirements, but certain things that they are used to having with other cameras that you don't have with an FPV drone. And so I get my fix from there too. Like, so I get to sit there and figure out how to solve problems. And when the director is like, go wild, show me me a rendition of what you think this shot could look like. I'm like, all right, cool. Mm-hmm. So it's still fun. Don't get me wrong. I do say I don't get to fly for fun a lot of times, but I mean that in the sense where there is no reason or intent. I'm not testing a product. I'm not, trying to shoot a video. I'm not, that is what has died down for me.
What, you make there's something that we've actually kind of kept coming back to in this, which is the sharing, the sharing. And at the beginning of when we were talking, and I think pretty sure we recorded this, you were talking about how, you get done with these shoots and sometimes you can't share it. How
Yeah.
does that change how you relate? Because based on like my experience, it sounds like your experience. There is part of it is not just the flying, it is the reliving and the sharing as you put the videos together and as you do the things that other people get to see. So how does that change your relationship with FPV when maybe it's only going to be shared with 5 other people?
Yeah, it's something that I've always thought a lot about, because there's times where, it's not, especially when we were doing like rotor right, like it was very common to have this mentality of can I share this, first of all, right? Because let's just be real. There's lots of things that we've done once that can't be shared for political whatever. We know that we can't share it.
Dives in Canada.
Yeah, that's a great example. And so you kind of have this internal battle of like, well, then, like, are you being real with yourself? Because like sometimes you do it for the rush. That's there. But then there's this aspect of being able to share it with other people. And I've always battled with that because I don't know if that's just some sort of like selfish reasoning that makes sense or doesn't make sense. But I think what I've personally landed on is that at the end of the day, it's just human nature to be able to share things. I watched a fantastic movie. Mike, you got to check this out. It's so cool. Whether or not I made it or not, I
thought you were going to tell me. All right, I'll check. Let's go, man.
Well, I will tell you once side note, I'm doing my first feature film really soon and I'm really excited about it. So once that goes out, I'll share more and awesome. Hopefully, I can talk more about it and all that stuff. But just using that example, like you watched a good movie, you want to share it with your friends. There's, it's just human nature type of thing. And I think it's the same thing with FPV. And what I've always been concerned about, which is actually one of the big reasons why I came out with the Acrobrat. I don't know if I've ever got into the story about like the whole Acrobrat. But long story short, the reason for the Acrobrat was I wanted more people to be able to share HD video at a lower cost. Because at the time, it was just GoPros, right? And for whatever reason, just sharing analog video wasn't accepted or it wasn't great or like, at least at the time. And so I think that for some people, the ability to share what you've done is a huge important thing. And for some people, it might not be. And for the people where it's not, I applaud that greatly because that's very much like when I go out and I do get to fly, I don't care about recording. In fact, when I do get a chance to just go out and sneak something out, I don't have a GoPro on. It's just for fun, and I think first and foremost, that's like the biggest thing. If that's what you get out of FPV flying is just that thrill of flying, then do it. That's like the number one thing that you can get. If it just so happens that sharing what you got is also important, then whatever, screw it. Especially if you're good and you got something cool to share. That's kind of the premise of how drones came about anyways, right? It was the ability to carry a camera and capture something from a perspective you would not otherwise be able to capture. So why not share it? And I think that's why a lot of new videos, well, new to the internet, but maybe not so new to us, right? There's some videos that are going viral that to the rest of the world, it's like, whoa, this is crazy. Maybe talking to the community, we're like, oh man, we've been doing that since 2015, and that just happened to be the one that went viral, and good for that guy that it went viral for. But I can see how there is this, relationship with FPV where if you can't share it, well, like what's important to you? Is it just the fact that you experienced it? But if there's also a component where you want to be able to share it, which I totally get, I feel like it's just a human natural thing, then FPV is for you because you're recording the very thing that you're doing. So,
well, I don't feel like wanting to share it is selfish in any way.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I don't feel like wanting to have validation is selfish either. Now, can it certainly, build your ego to the point where you're a monster? 100%. But for me, the flying is just part of it, because I also love editing. And then I also love getting people's feedback. And for me, it doesn't have to be positive. So I get some of the best feedback I've ever gotten was negative. But then there's my son. He doesn't want to share anything.
Mm-hmm.
He is on the simulator for hours practicing tricks. And we'll go out to the field and I'll have the goggles on while he's flying. And I'm like, where did you learn this? Like, how do you do that? And I've been in the goggles with him and he has just bent my mind. And finally, recently, I was like, he would never let me put the GoPro on his drone.
Wow.
He did not want to share it. It is not for anybody else. And, that is so far from my mindset that it's almost hard for me to understand. But I do have a little bit of an understanding because I know him, and I'm like, that's just as good of a viewpoint, and in some ways maybe a little bit healthier
Absolutely.
than me, who, like, dude, if I could live my life on a stage. Oh. All right, we're gonna take a temperature break, ladies and gentlemen. Are you still there, or are you just gone? Oh, there you are. Yeah, we'll let you catch back up.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear.
All right,
you.
we're gonna switch over to
the laptop.
Yeah, let me turn this
off.
on.
I'm gonna let this cool down in here because it's like 85 degrees in here right now.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this off. Yeah, wow.
You know what, Tommy? You got too hot. I'm sorry, the dad in me just loves that joke now.
Now we know the limits of.
That's right.
I'm an hour into it. This thing can't handle me for more than an hour.
That's what it is. All right, give me one moment. God, that was funny, man. All of a sudden, it just went to a black screen, and it had temperature too high, shutting down.
Yes, you're leaving that in.
That's right. Oh, 100%. I'm leaving that in. All right, that should be enough for the moment. I never stopped recording, so we're good to go.
Cool. That's all right. Yeah, I think it's going to be different for everybody. I think that this particular hobby, probably more so than anything else, there's a lot of aspects where it could just be for yourself, for sure. Because like the rush of, I won't forget the first time that I hovered something that I built in Fluid FPV. I didn't do anything. I literally just hovered. I maybe turned around this way, moved forward, got scared and landed it, took off my goggles, like, oh my God, like, amazing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's a part of that will always be there. And maybe the next time it's not hovering, but maybe it's just flying a little bit further. Maybe it's doing that S-flip. Maybe it's doing a Rubik's Cube. And all of those things are absolutely for yourself. But the beauty of FPV, which could be a plus or minus, just depends on how you look at it, is that there is a sharing aspect. And I correlate that very much to like a musical artist, right? So if you had somebody who's just absolutely talented and can sing their heart out, in a way that just captivates everybody's attention, how unfortunate would it be if nobody ever experienced that? And then you can also, not to get super deep on this, but you can also make the argument of like, does that even exist? Because he could sit there and think he sounds horrible, but everybody else in the world is sitting there going like, oh my God, this guy's got a voice of an angel, etc. And why wouldn't you share that? So FPV absolutely has those two things that could be separate, and it could absolutely also be married together, which is it's probably not unique to just FPV, but FPV has it.
Yeah, no, there's there's an interesting kind of way to twist the singing aspect as well. Is you can take a mediocre singer, but if they bring it, like if they are all in, if they just carry an incredible amount of energy with them, then a lot of people won't care that they're only okay.
Right.
Because they do bring that performance.
Right.
So yeah, man, this is good. All right. One last question. You have obviously been pretty impactful to the FPV community, especially from not just especially, but like technologically, but also in terms of like shaping how the community sees things. And I know for me, my first exposures to you were through Rotor Riot. Of everything that you've done, first off, do you feel like much of the stuff that you've done has impacted the community? And if there is something that that you feel has impacted the community, which one do you think was the greatest impact?
So my answer is no. that example that I talked about, the guy that doesn't think he can sing well. I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I don't. I feel like I'm just putting stuff out there, and people,
right,
are down and great. But gosh, is there something impactful that I what I'm going to go with? This one is probably one that you're going to nobody will probably expect. And it's because it actually impacted me, I feel like, more than people think. And yeah, I'm going to stick with it. I'm sitting there in my head like, should I go with this answer? The bridge dive.
Yeah. I figured that was coming.
The bridge dive. I'm going to go with that. And it's because that was probably the eye opener for me, that maybe I do have a little bit more impact in the community than I think. Granted, that was on the Rotor Riot channel, and it was honestly this close to being on my channel. That could have been. Anyways, we won't go there. But yeah, that was big because I just do my thing, and I never really thought anything more than like, I'm just a guy that puts out content, and some people watch it, some people don't, and that was it. And when that came about, and just to see how polarizing that was, really opened my eye that like, okay, like it's not just a small group of people that is in tune with me or us as Rotor Riot, but like I actually have to really think about like what I'm putting out there, because obviously for some people that's a big thrill, and that those types of people just exist. I'm arguably on that side of that spectrum. And then there's another spectrum of people that are really passionate about the hobby, and they want to protect it at all costs, which is also important, and that's a big thing. And for me, it was just like, okay, like this is the impact that I can potentially have on people. And from that point forward, it was more, okay, let's how do we really kind of push things forward, keep things interesting at the same time, while still, as a general, we're still lifting things up. Because before, I also felt like, because I've never been a huge trick kind of guy. Like I said, like my if I were to model my flying, it would be after Midwest Rob, which is very much just smooth flying, picking really cool lines. How do you present the environment to your viewers in an interesting way, which is very much what that bridge dive was for me, at least. And so it's like, how do I keep doing this without necessarily crossing that line?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very impactful to me. I'd say probably even bigger than the impact that it made to other people, because it shook me, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think something so innocent could be like that. You know, I was getting hate mail for weeks.
Like actually to your house?
No, just like
Okay.
emails, just I would get emails about that. And, it is what it is. I accept what happened, but that was probably like the moment for me that I was just like, hey, this is bigger than you think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been in the middle of some pretty big firestorms, but that one is giant.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, because of that, there is a lot of footage that you guys will never ever see.
Yes.
Got a full hard drive full that will never see the light of day. And which kind of goes back to the whole like, oh, I wish I could share this,
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably best that I
Probably
don't.
best to don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a group of people that will totally understand, and there's also a group of people that probably won't. And that's okay. And that's all right. Maybe I
Awesome.
should start an OnlyFans, Mike. That's what I should do. I'll start an
You
OnlyFans.
started OnlyFans for your hard drive.
Yeah, and then I'll show all the dirty stuff.
The dirty stuff. Look, he's in his socks, guys. So, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on, man. This has been great.
No, always a pleasure, man. It's always fun.
It is a joy to have you on. I really appreciate the perspective. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Michael Rollins Show. You have been on with Tommy Ummagawd, and we will catch you all later. Bye.
See ya.
Tommy, thank you. It is always such a pleasure to talk to you. Not the least of which because, I do kind of idolize what you do, and sometimes I wish that I could literally do what you do. But also for everything that you've done for this industry. It is interesting that in this hobby, there's so many folks that are just so helpful and so kind and so humble all at the same time. And you definitely exemplify all of that. It's always great to have you on, and thank you. I hope that you all watching this have enjoyed this episode. I know that I did, and we're going to continue on with the history of FPV. The next one's right around the corner, and at this point, there may be quite a few of these. So you guys hang in there. I hope you have really enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like, subscribe, and if you really like what I do here, then all of this is going to be on my Patreon in a podcast form, in an unedited, long content form for the interview. And right now, as I record this, more than one other interview is also up there. So if you want to get a sneak peek and actually see what's already been happening, then go check it out. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. YouTube was initially used. All right. This is the fourth and final episode with Tommy Tabahia, aka Ummagawd. Just a fantastic guy. I've really loved talking with him, and it was just such a great time. No.